Poppy Playtime Chapter 5 just came out, and fans aren't happy to say the least.
Poppy Playtime Chapter 5 sucks!
Are you in my walls? After only a year of waiting, all of these negative reviews are starting to become a little too much. So today, we're going to talk about the drama of Poppy Playtime Chapter 5 and why these fans aren't happy. For starters, it's been about 3 days, as of recording this, since Poppy Playtime Chapter 5 did release. Now, this video is going to mainly focus on people's opinions, so if this offends you, I'm sorry, but please still subscribe. Chapter 4 set really high expectations for the series, leaving Chapter 5 extremely desired. Only a year after Chapter 4's release, Chapter 5 seemed pretty promising. The trailers looked good, it was getting really highly rated until the release day, where things started to go a little bit haywire. This video is going to get increasingly more dramatic, so we're going to start with one of the first talking points, which is not that bad, but still not making people happy. 2 on the rage meter, Giblet. Why are fans mad at the cute goat looking thing? Well, in horror games, time is a resource. Every minute that we spent doing fetch quests for Giblet kind of felt like we were taking away time from figuring out what we were going to be doing this chapter. A lot of people are saying the game felt extremely rushed, and that's the main first talking point. There wasn't much to do. People say that the puzzles felt monotonous and that the gameplay was extremely basic. They complain that there was a lot of filler content in this game and the only interesting parts were when all of our friends died. I guess the main problem is that there wasn't a lot of fan service when it came to Giblet. Giblet was, well, do we even know who he is? He kind of serves a purpose that we may not have seen yet, but I don't think a lot of fans are gonna wait. For example, the popular YouTuber Markiplier has already made comments saying that he's done with the series entirely. You cannot lose those really big YouTubers that are covering your game. That's a recipe for some disaster. I'm not saying Markiplier is gonna break the game and its popularity or its fan base, because I am a fan and I actually ended up liking the chapter, but that's just my opinion, but it doesn't help overall. So people are also really mad about the ending. And this part, I somewhat can see. I also kind of agree with. So the next thing that people are pretty upset about is the stabbing sequence, and I can't say I disagree. In this video up here, up here, I talked pretty much about how the ending seemed a little strange, and I know it was meant to be a cliffhanger, but there wasn't a lot to go off of. If you guys didn't really know or want to catch up real fast, we basically get stabbed and we get revived by an electric shock. That doesn't make sense. Where did the stab wounds go? To Arizona. It looks absolutely ridiculous if you're an amateur to the series and don't understand the idea of what's really happening. There are people that just play Five Nights at Freddy's because they just enjoy the characters, they enjoy the gameplay. Now, there's not a lot of gameplay, but they enjoy it. There are people that play Grand Theft Auto, not because they care about the story, but because they just like the idea of a realistic looking game. And it's the same thing for Poppy Playtime. People play this game because they're horror fans that want to see a fun story unfold, but maybe not paying attention to every single lore note. That's why the ending seemed a little unfair for those that are somewhat not as into the game, where yeah, we got stabbed. Would that not just mean that we die? Now, I'm one of those that have done a lot of research so I can make sure I make a more informed opinion than I would have without. But even doing my research, I honestly don't know what happened. I made a whole video explaining the fact that I think the whole point of Chapter 5 was to totally screw us up, and that we might be the problem. If you want to watch that video, it's up here. All right, so the next talking point that I want to talk about are the notes and the lore. People are saying that this is starting to get way too convoluted. Five Nights at Freddy's, I know I keep making comparisons to it, and they are 2 completely different games. I'm not a believer that one's a ripoff of the other, but what I do believe is that Five Nights at Freddy leaves a lot up to somebody's guess. And while Poppy Playtime somewhat remedies that with all of the lore notes, people are really tired of the way that those are just laid around everywhere. It doesn't really add a lot for the characters not to give much dialogue, and when they do, it's somewhat useless when you kind of have to figure out the story by reading small excerpts or putting in tapes in the earlier chapters. That's not really fun. And as a similar talking point to number 2, number 3 kind of plays right into it. You think about the amateur players who just wanted to play the fun new colorful game that came out by becoming a AAA company. They're not going to be paying attention to all of the lore. They're not going to spend time at night looking up, oh my god, what happened to Doughy the Dough Man? Who was Jack? Why did Jack fall in the meat grinder? Or whatever, you know? Like, I don't even know the full story, and I'm a fan of the franchise. So why do I have to go look at notes? I don't want to read. I want to be told what's going on. All right, talking point number 4 is Harley Sawyer coming back, sort of the doctor coming back, the whole mess. I don't like this at all. I think that when the doctor went, the doctor should have went. It just makes the whole rest of what we've done so far seem dumb. This is the problem I have with Five Nights at Freddy's. This is the problem that I'm starting to have with Poppy Playtime. I don't like it when you supposedly defeat a character and the character comes back. Now, you see this in Five Nights at Freddy's when William Afton has his famous line, "I always come back." You see this in Poppy Playtime when Huggy Wuggy comes back. Now, you could just say, well, they didn't die. Okay, but they should have in all of these ways. William Afton got burned. Huggy Wuggy fell from like 200 feet. No one's gonna survive that. And now it's the same thing where we unplugged the computer type deal, whatever, and now he's back. Woohoo, he's a computer system. It just seems somewhat lazy. And again, I like the game. I do. I would give the chapter a, I don't know, a 7 out of 10, but I vividly remember telling my girlfriend after I stayed up late on a university school night saying, wow, that was a waste of my time. That was boring. I've come to appreciate it a little bit, but I've had to do so much reading to figure out what actually happened. That's not fun. Before I piss anybody off or make anybody too mad, I want to say again, Chapter 5 to me is not a failure. It's a transition. It's the moment that Poppy Playtime stopped being a game about escaping a factory and started being a whole civil war between monsters. It's almost like they're retconning the first couple chapters of what we're meant to do. I know I keep referencing the video that I would have made at this point yesterday, but as I say in that video, the character used to somewhat be human, at least we thought he was, and then, or she, we don't really know, but then now, is a total cyborg. It just doesn't really make that much sense. So the last thing that I want to talk about, and the other thing that looks like people are pretty upset over, is the fact that we seem invulnerable. And I'm not a big fan of plot armor. I don't watch anime. Sorry, that's probably gonna make you guys mad too, but I have seen one of them, and that's Sword Art Online. I actually somewhat enjoyed the show. However, something that I didn't like was the fact that the main characters always had plot armor. Now, I'm not saying I wanted them to die or anything like that. That's crazy. I'm just saying that they were pretty much just like the quote-unquote, I'm a Christian, Jesus is God, but the gods of that universe, where they were immortal. They couldn't die. And it's the same thing that you see in other franchises like Five Nights at Freddy's, like we mentioned earlier. Now you see some franchises like Star Wars have a little bit of plot armor, but everybody pretty much dies in that one. You see some franchises like Avengers, people die in that one. It's like, when are we gonna make the jump to be okay with getting rid of some of these characters? Now I know Mommy Longlegs is dead, but in the grand scheme of things, who really cares? Everybody else is trying to kill us. But as always, I like to give positivity to the world, and I have to give credit to Mob Games, or whatever they're called, where it's due. I actually thought the game was optimized really well. I didn't see many bugs at all in gameplays or anything like that. I was pretty impressed. I thought the game looked great. I thought the animations were spectacular. I thought the designs were immaculate, and I was very, very, very impressed with how the sound design as well. But we gotta work on that story. And we were so close. I think chapter 5 should have been the ending. We are dragging this junk out to a chapter 28. But anyway, that's just what I had to say. If you guys don't agree, that's fine. Hit the like button. If you do agree, hit the like button. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys have a great day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Also, support Mob Games. Love you. Bye.